I am Kristin Shepherd. I'm an actor. I'm a playwright. I speak to people often about things like meditation, love, courage, what you want to do with your life. And I am on a year-long sabbatical right now at the age of 49 and a half. Loving it. I went to Bangkok because it scared me a little bit. I've been a chiropractor for 20 years, and it's probably been 25 years since with a backpack I was in Europe, and then I was with someone else. So the thought of going by myself scared the shit out of me, but in a good way. I just knew that it would open me up in a really good way. So I went. I had 3 really exciting days in Bangkok. I stayed well out of the tourist core to have an authentic experience, but well out of the tourist core, nobody speaks English. So every day of those 3 days, I would head out on my walking adventure and get completely lost. And every day, somehow, I have no idea in this city because it is so densely populated. Every day I found my way back home. I don't know how it happened. On the second day, when I was massively overwhelmed, I was near all the big temples and bus loads of people, and I'm not a person who loves crowds. And on the second day, I was lost in an alleyway when a Buddhist nun turned around and said, "You meditate?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Come with me." And she took me into a hall where I meditated for 2 hours with these Thai people. I don't know, I was the only one not dressed in white. I was the only one not a student. I don't know how the opportunity happened. Anyway, ate with them, wonderful. 3 wonderful action-packed days like that. And then I got an email in the middle of the night from my lovely man saying, "I hate to do this to you while you're there, but I've just found out I had a tumor in my eye." And he'd had no signs. On the way to the airport, 2.5 days before, he'd said, "It's funny, my eye's a bit fuzzy." And I, got him to cover each one, and he said, "It's my right eye." And I said, "Then you should check it right away." Well, he did, and through the grace of a lot of different things coming together, I was diagnosed very quickly. So I got this note in the middle of the night and probably had about 2 hours of shock. We had emailed back and forth a couple of times. It was middle of the day here, so he was in tests and things, and he said, "Don't come home. Just keep traveling. There's nothing will happen here for a while anywhere." And I thought, what? What's amazing is that everything gets very simple. What do you think, I'm going to go and just look at another temple and another temple while you have a tumor in your eye? So I said, "I'll just figure things out here and I'll get back to you." And I thought, I'll go to the Canadian Embassy. And I thought, there is no stinking way in hell that I can find my way to the Canadian Embassy, and nobody is going to know what that means, the Canadian Embassy. So I thought, I'll just go to the airport and I'll just find a way home, whatever happens. I got a cab from where I was. Cab is a word they knew. But really, I got into the cab and he didn't know the word airport. So I was crying, flapping my wings in the back seat, saying, "I need to go home on an airplane, fly home." So I sat in the back of the cab and I was crying on and off, and I thought I was doing that pretty inconspicuously. I guess not, because the cab driver kept saying something all the way to the airport over and over and over and over, and I didn't get it until we were right at the airport. He kept saying, "Bangkok happy, Bangkok happy," because I was crying. So I got to the airport and went up to somebody and said, "I need to find a way home." I was a slobbering, blobbering idiot everywhere I was. I would just burst out crying. They'd say, "Why do you need to go home?" "Because my daddy has a tumor in his eye." And really, oh man, things were smiling on me. The trip home was more efficient than the trip there. I was on a plane in 2 hours. I sat beside a woman who didn't speak English, and I guess I was crying on and off. And she kept handing me pieces of strawberry gum. That's how she knew how to console me. And there isn't a smell in the world that makes me want to barf more than that strawberry gum. I can't stand it in a car that I'm in. And I just shoved it in my mouth. I was so grateful for any kind of love coming from her. I got back to customs in Toronto after a bazillion hours. I'd been awake for about 50 hours by now. I looked like a drug dealer. No wonder they thought I was on the way home. And I went up to the customs guy in Toronto. Oh, I was such a wreck. And I said, "Honey, I just got to tell you something right now. Don't say anything that makes me cry, because my lovely man is standing out there and I do not want to meet him crying." And he said, "Okay." He said, "Why don't you show me your boarding pass?" And I said, because I can't find my effing boarding pass. I had no idea where anything was, and I was so strung out. He said, well, ma'am, we really do need to see your boarding pass. And I said, every stinking person behind me was on the same plane. Can you not ask one of them for their boarding pass? And he said, what's going on? And I said, I'm meeting my lovely man on the other side of that, and he has a tumor in his eye, and it's not good. It's not good. It's a malignant tumor. It's a big tumor. It's not good. He said, I'll just make a number up. And I walked past him, and he put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, I hope he's okay. I burst out crying, and of course, met my lovely man that way. I spend a lot of time in my life thinking, where am I going? What's it about? What's the next move? Where do I want to go? And I don't think there was ever a time in my life, not in the last 20 years anyway, where it got clearer than that. Because what it's about is love, and what it was about right then was doing whatever it took to be with my love through that. You know, people are always posting those crazy things on Facebook. You know, we all want a lot of things, but if you have cancer, the one thing you want, and I think, oh, shut up, shut up. When you're in the middle of those stories, is there suffering? Yes, like there is in anybody else's story. But there's a lot of love inside those stories. And I'll tell you, we had the best winter ever together. Despite all those trips to Princess Margaret, despite the surgery, despite the whatever. I learned a lot more about love over the last year during that trip than I could possibly have learned in Asia. I'm Kristin Shepherd. Thanks for listening. I'm proud to support Hands and your family story.